Hello, we are here with Deborah Bullwinkel, who is the current mayor or president of the Village of Villa Park. We'll refer to her as mayor going forward. And she is a candidate for the 8th Congressional District in Illinois, the northern part of Illinois. That seat is currently held by Tammy Duckworth, who is now a candidate for U.S. Senator in Illinois. Deborah, thank you for sitting down with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
You are a candidate for the 8th Congressional District in Illinois, and you've described yourself as a candidate people deserve to represent them. Why?
Well, at the end of the day, I keep saying, when you peel back the layers, I'm a regular, everyday gal. I am middle class. I am not a millionaire. I'm not a political insider. And as I talk to people in the 8th Congressional District, and I've made literally thousands of phone calls to the residents of the 8th, one of the themes that kind of rises to the surface is the fact that they're tired of the same old type of person being elected to these positions. More than 50% of the people that serve in Congress right now are millionaires. And people are feeling very disconnected. They don't feel like they can relate. And that's where I step in. I believe that I'm the best candidate for this job because I am just like everybody else. I'm working class, middle class, and I'm also in the trenches with the residents every single day as the village president, mayor of the Village of Villa Park. My job is to be with them every day, listen to them every day, and do everything I can to solve their problems and listen to their concerns. And that's what I'm doing. That's part of my daily job, my daily responsibilities. So I think just being in the trenches with them every day and also being an everyday regular gal that no frills, just, what you see is what you get. I think that makes me very relatable.
With all the disagreement in the U.S. Congress, most people are skeptical that any meaningful work gets done. Are you willing to work towards productive compromise, even if it means you must compromise?
Absolutely, 100%. Part of my job as being the village president, mayor of the Village of Villa Park, requires me and a team around me to compromise. My job is to reach across the aisle, reach across the table, and work with people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of opinions. In DuPage County, for example, it's an extremely Republican county. I'm one of the few Democrats serving in this county. In fact, I'm the only elected Democrat female mayor in DuPage County. However, that hasn't stopped me from wanting to work with my colleagues because in Villa Park, for example, it's a nonpartisan position. So it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. At the end of the day, the job requires progress. The job requires to get things done, and the job requires working with people from all different types of backgrounds. And we do get things done in Villa Park. There is a lot of progress happening, and I think you can see the same level of progress on the congressional level. Obviously, there's a lot more people to bring into the fold, but I think with proper relationship building, coalition building, reaching across the table and not being afraid to talk to people that may not agree with you. They may not even like you, but at the end of the day, bringing people into that fold, communication and inclusiveness has gone a long way in Villa Park. And the teamwork approach, mentality, also does wonders to get things done.
Although the statistics have improved dramatically in terms of unemployment, what can be done here in the 8th Congressional District to create more job opportunities?
Well, I think one thing we can do immediately, and it's already a project underway, is the Elgin O'Hare Western Access Project. Folks that have been out to that area can see the progress that's being made with that project now. It's a project that has provided thousands of really good jobs for working families. The infrastructure projects are the projects that we really need to focus on and bring back to the district. Every municipality is struggling with infrastructure issues, new roads, new bridges, anything infrastructure related. It's important to stay on top of that. And as a result, you bring jobs to your particular area. I would absolutely like to see the project come to completion and then move forward from there by bringing additional infrastructure jobs. The other piece too is manufacturing jobs have been leaving the district at what I would deem to be at alarming rates, and I would like to see that sector pick up again and grow. Again, those are very good jobs that provide for working families. So those are two areas that I would like to see. And also I'd like to see additional funding come to the district that can provide small business owners with more incentives and opportunities to grow their business, to hire more employees, or to do whatever they need to help close that gap to help them succeed. So those would be areas right there that I think could help stimulate job growth.
Medical expenses are a key issue in your campaign. Do you support the Affordable Care Act?
I do support the Affordable Care Act, also known as the ACA. However, I see that there could be opportunity to look deeper at the act and institute reforms where reforms are necessary. As I'm working the phones and knocking on doors, another thing that I hear from residents and also small business owners is the increasing cost of health insurance premiums, the cost of prescription medications, and also, seniors too are telling me a lot about the costs that are associated with keeping up with their medical strategies. And so that, I think, is an area that we really need to take a closer look at. That is hitting everybody on all sides. Doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. And with these increasing costs, I can tell you personally, for me, my husband alone, we're paying over $700 a month. And that's an increase over about $400, $400 from last year. So we are also experiencing that with high deductibles and high out-of-pocket, rules and regs that we have to fulfill before, other things kick in. So I think we need to look at the increasing costs there alone. And I think that provides us with some opportunities to look at some reforms. It's not perfect. I don't think anybody would argue that it is. However, I think, the opportunity to have access to health insurance is a good thing. There's so many people that have benefited as a result of the Affordable Care Act. People who were once denied coverage because of pre-existing conditions, now people don't have to worry about that. That's a really huge benefit to the Affordable Care Act. So there are some good things related to the Affordable Care Act, and areas that need improvement we'll look at.
Immigration and illegal immigration are key issues in the presidential campaign. What should Congress do to reform the immigration laws as they exist today?
Well, I certainly agree with coming up with comprehensive reform for the immigration issues that we face today. We often hear about people hiding in the shadows or living in the shadows. They're afraid to come forward because they hear in the news every day that somebody's going to come in and storm their home and take them away from their families, from their children, and ship them back to wherever they came from. And so I think we need to deal with this issue in the most humanitarian way possible, and also provide them with a real path to citizenship here in the United States. They can, and they do still today, contribute to our economy. They buy homes, they work, they are contributing to our economy. Just we need to come up with a more comprehensive plan to bring the 11 million or so immigrants that are living in our country now to legal status, so they can then be incorporated into our economy. As I said, they will buy homes, they will participate in daily life like the rest of us. So I think that at the end of the day, we do need to have comprehensive reform that will bring them out of the shadows and is done in a very humanitarian manner. I also see where there could be compromise in regards to making sure that our borders are secure. That part of the federal budget tends to see quite a bit of cuts, and I think we need to take a closer look at how we're spending our funds in regards to securing our borders and making sure that we have enough allocated for border patrols and other things that are related to our security there on the borders.
Global terrorism scares many people and is a problem around the world. What should the United States do to combat terrorist groups?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is look at every diplomatic opportunity we have to come up with a solution before we send our brave men and women into combat. It's a very difficult decision to send people into battle. unfortunately, sometimes those decisions have to be made, and especially with the level of turmoil and anxiety that we see all around the world today, that is certainly something that I know is probably under constant consideration. However, I think we need to take very diplomatic strategies to heart and very seriously when it comes to whether or not we're going to send our men and women into battle, especially into an area where you see no end in sight. You know, some of these battles seem to go on and on and on, and still are today. You know, my brother saw two tours of duty in Iraq. He is now back here stateside and you know, handling some of his post-war issues. He does have post-traumatic stress disorder, and those are things that are real, that affect people every single day. And we need to think about kind of what the aftermath is in regards to sending our men and women into battle. I also think that we need to do a better job of building coalitions with our allies. You know, there's a lot of people out there that I think want to be part of the team, and I'm not naive in regards to, you know, the level of seriousness of what's happening all across the world and overseas and in the Middle East, and how volatile it is. But, you know, reaching out and really building those coalitions and the strengths that we have out there, because we can't do it by ourselves. And perhaps, you know, working with them on some of our ground crews, if you will, that we need to have out there, because we need to make sure that we're securing the territory that we're trying to protect. And so working with our coalitions in that way that are in the region could be a way to really, you know, try to solve or at least address the issues that we have with this anxiety and turmoil. And also, you know, at the end of the day, if there are no other options, then we take a step back and kind of look at what we need to do from there. But I think diplomacy and working with our coalitions really should be what we look at first and foremost. You know, and we have a lot of threat to our security right now, and you know, I'm confident that we have a military that knows what they're doing and is on top of it every second of every day, and we need to listen to our military personnel. We have a number of terrorist groups that want to inflict harm on our country and our allies. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, there's so many other groups that we could go on and on and on in regards to the number of terrorist groups that are out there that want to harm us here on American soil and also on the soil of our allies. So it's just prudent of us to keep a very close eye on that, and that's where we need to have the utmost confidence in our military. They are on the front lines, and we need to also make sure that we trust in what our military is telling us, the intelligence that they're providing to us, so then we can act when we need to act appropriately.
Is there a human effect on the environment, and what should be done about it?
The human effect on the environment is absolutely real. There are numerous studies and science to back that up. We see what's happening with climate change. We see what's happening with our waterways. We see what's happening with our energy crisis that we have. It's kind of a wake-up call for us. We can no longer, those that are still denying that these effects are really happening, we're kind of at a point where the rubber meets the road here. We have to take it seriously, and we have to do everything we can to preserve our precious resources. Water isn't going to be around forever. We need to make sure that clean water is available to people, and also that our water supplies are not depleted. Conservation is extremely important. Climate change, we need to absolutely make sure that we work to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels, because that directly affects climate change. We see what's happening in Alaska, for example. Huge glaciers are literally melting into the ocean and going away. Once it's gone, it's gone. That's just one example of it. And then solar and wind power, that's here, I think, to stay. We need to see that happening more and more and more. And I think, you know, on the federal level, we can certainly increase the number of incentives, number of grants that are available to residents and also small business owners who would like to participate in clean energy strategies, for example. There are more and more opportunities that are being made available every day to jump on board with this because the future is now. So it's absolutely something that is front and center and top of my list of priorities to focus on in Congress.
Gun violence hits every fabric of our nation. Is there anything that can be done to help combat violence from handguns and assault weapons?
Absolutely. I think what we need to look at first and foremost is how background checks are done and tighten them up. There's some areas where background checks aren't even required. And I think, the gun shows, you hear often about the gun shows. I think we need to hold the gun show dealers, if you will, accountable for who they sell to, how they sell. That whole process there alone, we can take a very close look at. Also, we need to look at the issue of straw purchasers. How are they obtaining these guns? What's happening there that's making it so much easier for them to obtain these weapons illegally? Or in this case, with straw purchasers, they can obtain them legally and then passing them off to people who have no business owning a gun or possessing a weapon. So I think we need to really look at some of these areas. Also, I think that we need to take a close look at the laws that we have on the books now. Some laws may be working very well, others may not. We need to kind of maybe take a deeper look at what's working, what's not, retool what we need. I'm not sure if we need any new laws per se. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But I think it's probably time we take a closer look at what laws we have on the books. We have a pretty good idea of what is probably working pretty well, but those areas that aren't working, that's where we need to maybe focus more of our concentration. And the background checks, as I mentioned, looking at how straw purchasers are involved with this whole thing and how they're obtaining the weapons that they're obtaining, and also holding gun dealers accountable for their actions. And we can't be afraid to stand up and push back too, in terms of these issues that we're facing. I think it's very easy to take a step back, or we can talk the talk, but then when it comes time to walk the walk, not to be afraid to stand up and say, truly, enough is enough. I can tell you from personal experience, I've lost a very good family friend to gun violence. He was murdered in a robbery, and I learned at a very young age what that means. I was 10 years old when Mr. McMullen was taken from us, and enough is enough. That was a long time ago, and here we are today. We're still dealing with the same issues, and every time we make a little bit of progress, we have a lot more to go. So we just can't be afraid to stand up and really say enough is enough. It's time we band together, and band together with people who don't see eye to eye with the issues. It goes back to reaching across the table and being willing to talk to all parties involved with this issue. Have everybody come to the table and do what we have to do to come to some sort of resolution, because it's an issue that's not going away. It's not going to go away anytime soon, but there's a time that we can finally do something about it, and the time is now.
What accomplishments can you cite that you have been instrumental in getting done in your role as president or mayor and as an elected official?
One of the most recent examples of that is when the Village of Villa Park got a $23 million road referendum passed. And it was no easy task. It took 16 months and a lot of public education and public engagement, which is very important to me as the mayor, village president of Villa Park. And we kind of hunkered down. I was elected and sworn in on May 13th, and on June 26th, just a month or so later after that, we had our first town hall meeting. That was one of 7 town hall meetings that we did with the residents and with the business owners in town and other stakeholders. We also created a local coalition. We've talked about coalitions and the importance of that, comprised of people who were completely in favor of the referendum, people who were lukewarm to it, wanted to learn more, but weren't sure, and then people who were absolutely against it. It was imperative that we had everybody who had an opinion about it be involved. And so that coalition was born, and it was utilized to further our communication with the residents in Villa Park. So all of those communication vehicles combined helped us get this colossal project approved. And you know, I'll tell you, in Villa Park, it's not really easy to get referendums passed. We've had many come through and come around over the years, and not too many seem to pass. But this one passed with 71% of the votes that were cast voted in favor of this referendum, 71%. So we were very excited about the result. We were, of course, hoping that it would pass, but you know, that far exceeded our expectations. And I just believe in my heart of hearts, the success of that was because we engaged the people, we engaged our community, we engaged everybody from all opinions about this issue. You know, we're a nonpartisan board here, and you know, we share a lot of different views, a lot of different opinions, but at the end of the day, we come together, we work together because we know we are working for the people. And this was a huge project that we absolutely needed to get done for the people, but also with the people. And it was a very proud moment. We were very excited, and now we're hunkered for, you know, it's a 7-year project. We're rounding the first year of completion of the 7-year project, and things are getting done. We can't do it by ourselves. So that I have to say was a real crowning moment in my presidency here in Villa Park thus far. We're very proud, and I have the residents to thank for that.
Why are you the best candidate for Congress in the 8th District?
Well, I think it goes back to one thing I mentioned before, which is, you know, at the end of the day, I am middle class, regular everyday person that walks the walk and talks the talk with the people of the 8th Congressional District. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a political insider, I'm a regular everyday person that is experiencing the same daily struggles that everybody else is experiencing in their day-to-day life. I mentioned, you know, health insurance as an example. My husband and I are you know, paying over $700 a month. That's a very expensive nut for us every month, you know, and I know that there's so many other people out there that also can relate to that, because they're also trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their health insurance, just as an example. Also, being an elected mayor of a town of just under 22,000 residents here in Villa Park, my job is to be in contact with the people every single day. I'm with them every day. I'm in the trenches every day. I'm either in their living room or in their backyard, addressing a concern, a complaint, sometimes even a compliment. But whatever it is, I'm there with the people every single day. And I've kind of got a pulse on that, I think, just because of my daily contact with the residents. And so that's, I think, very important. Also, maybe one of the more obvious things is that I am the only woman running in this race. And with only 19% women serving in the House overall, you know, there's probably some room there for growth, if you will, and if I don't secure this position in the 8th, there will only be 3 women in the Illinois delegation. So when we look at diversity and a voice for all, it would be nice if we can maintain this seat with a woman, so a woman's voice can also be heard. Not a lot of women are in politics. I'm the only woman serving on my board right now here locally, and so just don't see a lot of women in politics. So I think that's another thing that sets me apart from my competitors, my opponents. And also, I think I'm considered kind of the underdog in this race. You know, I've exceeded expectations in the past, but I've also been considered the underdog too, you know, in running for my local board. When I ran for trustee, I don't think anybody ever really realized that I could win this, you know, and I won it with 65% of the vote. And then when I ran for village president, mayor, I garnered 76% of the vote. And so, you know, I've always been considered kind of the underdog, the person that, you know, may or may not do what she says she's going to do, kind of thing, in regards to these types of scenarios. But I kind of like being considered the underdog, you know. It's kind of one of those nifty little things, and I think the people of the 8th Congressional District can kind of relate to that too, because they feel like they don't have the same sort of representation in Congress. Over 50% of the people serving in Congress right now are millionaires. They feel like they don't have a voice, they feel invisible. They feel like they don't have enough traction, they don't have enough in it to win it kind of thing, because they don't feel like they have anybody sitting there in Congress that can really carry the torch for them and truly carry their voice. That's why I think I'm the best candidate for this job here in Congress, and I certainly am asking for their vote on March 15th in the primary.
What will you do for the people in the 8th District when you're elected?
Well, once I'm elected to the 8th Congressional District, I will definitely bring new resources to this district, with bipartisan support, by the way, because you can't do it by yourself. And I'm going to be a representative for all people in the 8th Congressional District, which is comprised of over 700,000 residents. It's a really huge district. So I'm going to have a lot of responsibility for a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds. So I'm planning on making sure that I'm listening to all people from all backgrounds, from all concerns, because I'm going to be their rep too. Also, I'm planning on bringing resources back that will assist with the flooding issues that we've had throughout the district. You know, flooding is something that has increased in severity, if you will, over the last several years. You know, we hear about these 100-year floods that come, it seems like, once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, depending on how much rain falls upon us. And that is a really big infrastructure issue that is extremely expensive, very costly, and is hitting municipalities all over the district. So that'll be another area of concentration for me. Also, mentioned earlier, funding for transportation. That's very, very important that we continue to make sure that we feed that system as well with the resources that are necessary to keep our transportation systems going. That in and of itself kind of is important, because it also provides jobs too. You know, our rail system, our bus system. We've talked about the Elgin O'Hare Western Access Project, all of these different things that are related to transportation. And then also I want to open up a constituent services office that will be very centrally located within the district, make it as easy for people to get to as possible, because it is a very big district, and because I want to be as accessible as I possibly can to the residents of the 8th Congressional District. I'm there serving them. They are my boss. You know, that's who I answer to, the residents of the 8th Congressional District. So I want to make sure that they have every opportunity to come and visit with me, tell me their concerns, so I can work on solutions for them. Kind of like what I do as mayor of Villa Park. You know, that's my job too, to make sure I'm accessible to the residents of Villa Park. I'm planning on translating that to Congress.
Thank you for your time today. I hope you'll come back and talk with us again, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. My pleasure too.